So I grew up around trades guys. What I noticed different from like a white collar gig is you get to take something from start to finish.
Trades teach you a lot of critical thinking. You're not just cogs in the machine type of thing. You do a lot more problem solving. If I'm stressing and not making progress, that's anxiety. If I'm stressing and making progress, that's just banging out work, being stressed, right? That comes with doing more.
Stress is why we get out of bed in the morning. Stress is why we get to work on time. Stress is why we do that presentation well. You need stress. You need some motivation. What does it mean to be a provider today? And does having a blue or white collar impact that? What can blue and white collar workers learn from each other to make better careers and better lives? If you're curious about the answer to either of those questions, you're in the right place. My name's Tim Winnicky. This is American Masculinity. In our 13th episode, we're bringing on Jake Still. Jake did a fantastic job of building out a business from near nothing by combining his white collar and blue collar skill set. He created a multi-million-dollar business that's also of great service to his community and takes good care of his employees. I'm really excited to have him on so he can share some of those insights with us. We talk about the differences between blue collar and white collar workers, what they do well, what they could learn from each other. And we also have a pretty good conversation on what it would look like to try to enter into the blue collar world. With the insecurity in the white collar job space right now, there are a lot of younger guys that are exploring blue collar work over white collar work. So I thought it would be a really good idea to bring somebody on that bridges that gap for us. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Keep an ear out for the skills that you might want to pick up this year so we can talk about it at the end. Let's get started. Hey Jay, thanks so much for coming on and talking to folks.
I appreciate having me.
Yeah, man, anytime. So can you tell folks a little bit about your background and kind of what makes you the guy to talk to about blue collar work and leadership in that area?
Yeah, so I mean, growing up, I played sports and I always just did like manual labor type of jobs every summer, whether it was starting out like cutting lawns, but then I was a plumber one summer. Actually, I was an umpire one summer as well. Worked on a farm one summer, like a therapeutic horseback riding farm. So I just always did that type of work. I liked it. It made my days go by fast. I like being physical. For me, it was exercise. Ended up going to college for marketing. And while there, I ended up working for two companies in the trade that I'm in now, which is junk removal and dumpster rentals. And yeah, I went in to do marketing and sales after that and got a nice taste of, a little bit more corporate. Sales is still different than sitting at a desk job all day, but it still was, traditional white collar type of work. And yeah, I decided I really like being a white collar mindset in the blue collar world. From all my experience, it really helped stand out. And I went from selling, I was selling $100,000 lasers to plastic surgeons, now selling B2C back to consumers and contractors and real estate agents and everything else now. So best decision I ever made. And we've been doing this for about 8 years now.
And so that kind of lived experience on looking at both worlds, navigating that, and then helping guys integrate into a blue collar world has really given you the experience that you needed for this.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big thing of like all your experiences have a reason. You just got to find, the lessons learned in them.
Well, so as a guy who's kind of done both things, right? And we're seeing white collar jobs get really impacted. I feel like it's going to be like the 70s in the automotive industry as it is to programmers now with AI kind of coming in. What have you seen as the pros and cons of both?
So it's a tough one too, right? Because today's market is still changing with AI, so we'll see where it goes. But really, I think trades teach you a lot of critical thinking, actually. When you're not just doing even just manual labor, even there's some critical thinking there, but like you really do have to, you're not just cogs in the machine type of thing. You do a lot more problem solving than you would think. So especially with like our guys on the trucks, we always tell them they're running their own small business because you're cleaning out a house, for example, there. You do all the logistics, disassembling things. We teach a ton on tools, how to navigate safety, customer service. They do the sales, they do everything. So like, just because you're a trade, you're not just a technician. You're doing all facets of a business, right? Whereas I think really with more white collar, typical type of work, you're doing a lot more with computers than anything else, which I do think I'm fearful with AI. And the way it's trending, it won't replace everything, but it will replace a lot of things. And there'll be a trickle down from there as well into other fields, and it probably will hit the labor field. Like I think, right now there's a need for trades. And I'm definitely thinking that that's going to be coming back around where, it's going to start filling up a lot, and this is 10, 15 years down the road, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity to get in now with these businesses because let's say even AI robots happen, that's going to be 20, 30 years down the road. So
Well, and that's a whole nother problem.
we're already seeing right
Yeah.
now, and offshoring jobs as well. That was already one big
Mhm.
issue. Um,
Yeah.
and now again, we're part of that issue. We have overseas phone reps, but yeah, I think it's a really, really good practical life skill to have in the trades.
Yeah, I think the big thing I always think of is, so I grew up around trades guys. My father hung draperies. All of his buddies were in the various industries. And there's a lot of overlap between the guys that go into the trades and guys that go into the military.
Mm.
It's more of those kinetic guys. And in both areas, what I notice different from like a white collar gig, and I've had a bunch of those too, is you get to take something from start to finish, where you, in the white collar world, that's not typical.
Yeah.
Right. You're really good at this thing, which that quick expertise feels good
Mhm.
from the white collar end, right? Like I remember feeling really good about like, I'm the guy for this, but just taking something from beginning to end really gives a lot more satisfaction because it's not easier to explain.
Yeah.
It was interesting when I got started, the data on like happiness with your job,
Mhm.
construction workers were some of the happiest people in the country.
Mhm.
And the thing that I immediately thought of is, like my dad could brag about where he hung drapes, right? We grew up in DC, so my dad would like, yeah, man, I hung the drapes in the Kennedy Center.
Mhm.
That was a big deal, right? Like especially like a 5-year-old can understand that. Dad put those up,
Mhm.
right? And I always thought that that's what carried that. But now we're seeing some of the highest addiction rates in construction workers in the country. Like they're really struggling.
Yeah. I would easily agree with that.
So how, like if somebody was going to make that jump, how do they suss out kind of like this is healthy trades, this is somebody not valuing their people trades?
Yeah, because trades are tough because like how the workforce, like the work days go, 10, 12, 14-hour shifts are very common. It's hard to like not do it as an employer and everything else. So for example, we do 4-day work weeks before because of that. Well, guys want more hours, pick up the fifth shifts and they get the OT, which is nice, right? But then you really have the struggle of like routine and work-life balance. And I'm a big fan of routine is the one of the things that makes me happy, right? So if you're working a 14-hour shift one day, 12 another, and they're late shifts, so it's hard to get anything else in that day, go to bed, come right back in. It's really hard to get into routine and have, again, whatever your priorities in life, get them done. So I think you're really looking for someone that works with your schedule on that. If you're working more than 50 hours, right? If you're building something, and I mean building systematically for your
Mm-hmm.
career growth and anything else, it's different. But if you're just going through the motions and you have to work 55, 60, 70 hours just to make a living, like that's not a sustainable lifestyle. And
Here.
you'll have a vice, right? You'll drink, which a lot of those guys will drink
Yeah.
after, and that leads to other stuff. Like I had a friend that works in the pipeline, and he was in the middle of Pennsylvania working on the pipeline, and he's like, "You're just all there in trailers, and there's nothing to do, so you just drink after it."
Yeah.
And you're okay with working 14, 16 hours because there's nothing to do. And you make great money,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a slippery type of slope. And then you're surrounding yourself with all those type of people that are all doing the same habits, right? It can never happen. So I would say somewhere that values having some sort of routine and gets your schedule as routine as possible. It's never going to be that perfect in a trade, but if you can have some sort of routine and have consistent hours for people that, like, say you do work. If you work late for us, we offer you to come in late the next day if you have a later day, right? Or we move shifts around. And it's not perfect, but I'm just a big fan of routine.
Well, I think some of that works on both ends, right? Like the guys, Denver's a big startup town.
Mm,
So I work a lot with tech guys doing startup companies. And the biggest thing that I push all those guys for is exactly what you're talking about. Like, look, there's going to be pushes. Any job that doesn't have a 50 or 60-hour week, at least a few times a year, you're probably not doing anything all that important.
correct. Yeah.
Or like every job's got a push. And there's a difference between a job having a push and that just being the job.
Right.
And kind of like be able to suss that out a little bit. And I think that what I always look for my guys that I'm doing career counseling with on the white collar side is look around at who they're hiring and talk to those guys. Like if you can, start a conversation with somebody that already works there before you jump in.
Yeah. We do trial days. So we always call it a two-way interview. So it's a way for our employees to get involved in the interview process. But it's also a way for them to interview us, like see what an actual day is like before you commit. Because I think
Yeah.
people have sunk cost bias, right? And as soon as you take a job, and it's like, I'm kind of stuck in it, right? You don't want to quit. The longer you're there, the harder it gets to quit. And not every job's right for everybody, right? That's just
No.
it sounds so obvious, but no, people just take the jobs. We hire a lot through Indeed, and I got connected with this other company, and it was 60% of people on Indeed accept the first job given to them, like immediately, like that day, right? So it's just like people aren't thinking about their careers; they're just taking the job.
I think some of that goes into the provider problem, where our jobs, they're connected to who we are, right? As guys, the first question you get is, what do you do? But it's also connected to like how we feel good about ourselves and what people still put on it. Like, I've got to make money. I've got to be able to bring home this. And so I see a lot of guys in that fear space when they're job hunting, where like, yeah, man, the first one, I can't not have a job.
Yeah.
I can't not have a good job. And some of them, it's true. Like some of them, they have no runway, right? They got rent, it's coming. But that doesn't mean you got to stay there, right? If it's a bad fit. But, put in your work, show up with integrity, do the job, but it's okay to keep looking.
Yeah. It's the status, right? People that leave their job every 2 years, not getting fired, but they choose to leave, they make the most money in life, right? On average.
Yeah, because a company is never going to pay as much to keep you as they do to get you.
Yeah, exactly.
Within that kind of provider context, compared to what you were taught growing up, what's changed around how you're seeing guys handle that role and take on that?
For our employees specifically, right? Like we have a lot of younger guys that are trying to figure it out. As I look to the older guy, and we have a lot of younger guys that have kids, right? Unfortunately, a lot of them, right? I don't think they know how to be the provider, right? And what that really means. And I mean that by like a maturity standpoint of like understanding what the job is you're actually doing, and that you're not just here to lift stuff, put stuff down, do the work, right? Like what is your company building towards? What's the purpose of it, right? What are you actually trying to get done with the job? So for us, right, we try to teach a lot more. I said before, like we run each truck route runs like its own small business. We're trying to understand that like we're not a junk removal company, because if we were, you can hire someone else to put something, pick stuff up, put it down. Like we spend a ton of money in marketing, a ton of money in logistics, software, technology, and we're building systems to. We do same day service. We did like 6 jobs today within like the hour that they booked, and we'd have an hour radius of how far we service. Like a lot goes in to make that happen, to help clients and their experiences and who we hire and people that trust us inside their home. So right, like you're building an actual service that provides value. Like you're actually doing something that matters and needs to get done. And then, are you continuously getting better at that? And going back to the provider question, right, is you need to be, I think, the type of person that is constantly developing, right, to better themselves, to be a better provider, a better person, a better father for your kids in that sense. And I say that because we have one kid that we young guy, he's like 28, not really a kid anymore, but we let go and came back, and he's got young kids. And once he got kind of put in that situation, rightfully so, he did some dumb things, but we brought him back for 90 days, and he's been absolutely amazing. And I've just seen a different maturity in how he looks at himself, and then text that he sent me and everything else that, he just knows he has to be a different person now to be that provider, right, for that. And I think that's like the biggest thing I would like to help my guys more and understand with, like if you just go through the motions, yeah, you're not going to get really anywhere, right? You have to develop that. And I actually, it's a one small story with me. I like using shrooms in therapy, actually. It's a side note on it. But one time taking them, and I took a microdose, and I really just thought about like my role and anything like with the company I'm building and everything else, and really was just to be the provider for my family, right? Like, and I don't have kids yet, but that's where my mindset was. Like, it's just so important to have that role, and it meant so much to me in that moment. So I think it's really, really important to have that type of purpose, which is hard to find.
Well, I like how you kind of balanced out both ends of kind of what providing means, right? And some of it, that word is going to change when context changes.
Right.
So if you're not providing value where you're working, you're not displaying excellence in anything. Like if you can't get better at a job you're doing, it's probably not somewhere you should stay. Like we need to, like just for our own psyches, we need to feel good at what we do.
Correct.
Like we need to feel competent. And so if it's just a job where there's no competency to it, probably find something else. But if there is a competency to it, which almost every job has, I don't care if you're making fries at McDonald's, there's a competency thing. There's a learning track that you can take. Make sure that when you're done with the day, that you feel good about what you put out. Like regardless of what the boss is doing, regardless of the toxic culture or whatever, did I do my part well? Just for yourself.
Have you ever seen The Founder?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we played it for all of our employees because our goal is to
Mm-hmm.
franchise our business model. Fred Turner, because you were all, I don't care if you cook fries at McDonald's. Fred Turner was a
Yeah.
fry chef at,
Yeah.
at McDonald's, and he eventually became the CEO.
Yeah.
So it's pride in your work for who you are as a person, even if you're in the worst workplace. Get out of the workplace, but don't let it ever affect the way
Yeah.
you look at your job and get yourself done.
Yeah, and I think that's the trick with it, right? If you're doing that and there isn't anywhere for you to go, get a different job.
Yeah.
Right? Like learn how to be good at that, but then look for the next step, because if that company's not providing it for you, there's no harm, no foul, but it's time to go.
Yeah.
And I think that goes into the other end of it, where when we're talking about provider in a family sense, if you're choosing to kind of take on that traditional role of I'm the one bringing in the money so that our family's okay, money matters. You do have to look for progression in cash. I think where I kind of see the problem go is younger guys not prioritizing that enough, and older guys over prioritizing the money, where they get in that habit of like, I'm always looking for the next big check, instead of like, wait, I've got enough right now. Maybe I can ease off the gas so I can be around my kids more.
Right. And that's where, for me, I don't have my kids yet. So I'm balancing that right now because I can't, work for 8 hours. My business partner has a bunch of kids, and he just came on full time. And we're seeing that balance, and I get it. I can't,
What I see with business runners, once they get kids, their policies get a lot softer for their employees for some reason, right? Because they're like, oh no, this is hard.
Well, and that's where, I use that when I talk to my partner about something. Like, you got to relate to the, our guys that have this, and like we're kind of, whatever we do, right? We're always being watched. We're just like parents, right? And they look at you and say what you do, what do you tolerate, right? What can you get away with? What do you praise? So, I agree with that sentiment.
Well, and that's another thing I work with a lot of my entrepreneurial guys with. Like, if it's your business, there is a passion about that project to you, or you wouldn't have picked that business, right? And no one's going to work as hard for your passion as you will. And so if you're like leaving at 4 every day, why would your people stay till 5?
Yeah.
And I think that's just, people need to take that on a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it goes much better, because there's nothing wrong with leaving at 4. If that's the company culture and everybody's doing good work and that's, y'all can make money doing that, great. Like, as a therapist, that's my favorite thing to see, right? More time with things that matter to you. But that's not how most businesses start.
Yeah. Well, and that's ironic too, because right now that's what we leave. Like, our managers actually leave at 4, but that's because they work 5-day worksheets, and then they're on call after 4 for any employees that are still out, because we work different shifts. But the managers still work more hours, but they still, perception of reality, right? So you see, well, wait, why is he leaving at 4? Because he's working 5 days plus he's on call, and you're working 4 days. So but in the beginning, especially for us, I mean, I worked all day every day for the first 2 years, nonstop, and I ruined my body in the process. And it took me a while to get back healthy.
Well, that kind of goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about before we started recording around, you can only do 1 or 2 things well in your life, and you're going to have more things than 1 or 2 that you value. And so sometimes, if it's that time where you don't have your person yet, you don't have kids, you don't have other obligations, and you want to go pound out 60-hour weeks for a little while.
Yeah.
Not like that's a big push. It can't be forever. Yeah. It's not the worst idea.
Yeah. We have a call and you see me a little chunky, you're like, oh, his business is doing well.
Oh, man, that's fun. I guess this kind of moves into something that I'm really excited to hear your take on this. So you've done both ends of the spectrum. You've employed guys. I imagine you've employed some guys that have come out of white collar work into blue collar work, and mentored some blue collar guys into white collar work over the years.
Yeah.
What's something that guys with college degrees know better than guys without it? And what's something that guys that just jump right into work and have been like in the trades the whole time know better than the college guys?
So we, at the end of our day, we do financial logs. So we run gross profit. We teach guys, on why the margins matter. We go over like things like revenue per hour, productivity, your disposal, your fuel, everything. And they do the math and everything else. So one, doing the actual math is a lot easier for the white collar college guys, right? Everything else. But why we do the spreadsheet, and why we do the financials, that is the biggest difference I see between the white collar and blue collar set. Like, the white collar mindset will their critical thinking on that is like an understanding. Okay, yeah, I relate to this because it's our KPIs, right, for why we do the day-to-day business, right? It tells us did we do a good job or not, right? Where the blue collar guys are like, why do we have to do paperwork, right? Why do we have to write it down? And it's not about the paperwork. It's for you to show your work and then for you to analyze and go, oh wait, I had a bad day today. What went right? What went wrong? Not just go through the motions, right? So I see that as a big benefit on the white collar guys, right? Of them looking a little deeper to okay, why are we actually doing this? Understanding the bigger scope of what they're actually doing.
It's like systems integration.
Yeah, and the blue collar guys would put their heads down and get to work, right?
Yeah.
But the blue collar guys as well, as far as like, and I'm talking about and I'm looking at like all quality employees, right? Because we have, let's use that as a bar for both quality, white collar, blue collar. For the blue collar guys, there's certain things in their work ethic, right? That again, that head down mentality. Because you have that head down mentality, it's like I'm just going to figure it out regardless, right? Like I want to get through this problem, right? Whatever it is. Especially working in the field in hand. So small things will have like, okay, the fridge won't fit the door. Okay, let me take the measuring tape out. Let me see if it fits. Maybe I have to, take the door off, right, or take the door off the fridge, take the railing off the stairs, or whatever. But they'll find a way to get the job done and realize like that is the job, right? It has to get done. Where the white collar guys might be like, this is
can't get it out. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not in the scope, right? Type of work. Now that is at baseline, right? Because once you train them and coach them and everything else, it doesn't matter. But I'm saying that baseline, that mentality, and how they look at problem solving is definitely different.
Well, and I think that's what I'm trying to get to with that question is if you get those guys around each other with respect, everybody learns what they need to.
Right.
Like I remember for my sergeant's course that I went through, I was an intelligence guy, right? Office dude, had a degree, and showed up, and I was working with a bunch of maintainers, right? 70% of the Air Force at the time was twisting wrenches on planes. And that meant that these guys hadn't done school. Like a lot of them like just got through high school to get into the Air Force.
Yeah.
And I learned so much about like what it looks like to take a job to completion from them because I was getting kind of jaded about the intel work. But I was also the guy that could like get them out over a beer and help them pass the test that they were struggling with. People need to be around different people more.
Yeah. And it's that schoolwork ethic, right? And I'm a big believer in everyone's the same intelligence for the most part. Like you have a few people on the far end of the spectrum that are super smart and some people that are actually dumb. But most people are 95% or wherever the actual percentage is right around that middle, right?
Yeah, it's a bell curve.
Yeah.
We're all pretty close.
Bell curve, right? So really what that means is that it's what you are passionate about, what you're interested in is what you actually learn and retain. So like you asked me about cars, we have a ton of trucks like at our company, and it doesn't stick to me. I used to get made fun of in high school because I couldn't name like 3 different car brands, and I'd be smarter like book smart and other stuff, but like I don't have an interest. I never have, I never will. Yeah. Maybe I will. I don't know. I just don't. So like it doesn't stick with me. And like I have a friend who we made bust his balls because he didn't get in West Virginia, and that's like one of the highest acceptance rates, in the country. And he owns his own business now. He's super successful. He's one of the smartest, like life skill, everything. Like he just has always had it down so well. And it's what you care to learn. So if you don't think school has value, you're not going to pay attention in school. Like it's just that's what I believe firmly on that. Again, the bell curve is the best way of putting it.
Well, I think that I really like your analogy around the paperwork and then the just like getting your head down to get a problem solved and fixed. Is I think if you want to get really good at whatever you're doing, you've got to be able to do both, right? You've got to be able to like take on and get frustrated and cuss at a project for a while. But then if you don't have the ability to sit down in the quiet and assess like what did the work go to, how did it go today? You're going to cap out on how good you can get if you don't have both of those things.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I think that third kind of category is like that entrepreneurial category, right? Where you're getting a mix of that. Because I think you really need a mix of that in order to survive like entrepreneurism. Like I think that word gets thrown around all the time, but you really do, like it is a grind. And yeah, you constantly, we just had a record breaking week last week and I still feel like we're just not doing enough, right? Yeah. We're not going anywhere. So yeah, it's tough.
Well, so I think that's why so few people actually are entrepreneurial. I think we push too many people into it.
Mm,
I think most people just want to do what they do and have the details around them managed,
yeah.
because that's how we operate, right? Like you talked about how we were 2000 years ago, right? We're supposed to be operating in groups of 20 people where, like, if I make the shoes, I'm the guy that makes the shoes and you're the guy that makes the vest, and that's how we get around, and
Mm,
it's okay. And then, yeah, there's like 1 in 10 of us who are like, no, I'm the guy that leads this, and like, I'll help everybody organize and I'll push us to get to this thing and build this thing better, right? But most of us just want to do something well.
yeah.
And for an entrepreneur, there's so many things you need to do well that doesn't work.
Yeah. And you gotta, again, just be really, really obsessed, I think, to grind through it. Because that's like the only way. Like, if I didn't have almost like productivity anxiety about making this work, and now having employees that I'm responsible for, yeah, I don't know if I would be able to do it all the time.
Well, I think that's worth talking about. I'm glad you brought it up. Like, one of my big pet peeves as a clinician is I really dislike how we've convinced everyone that stress is anxiety. Like, stress is healthy.
Mm,
Stress is why we get out of bed in the morning. Stress is why we get to work on time. Stress is why we do that presentation well, why we do that project well. You need stress. You need some motivation. So for you, when you talk about that, like, that grind culture really pushes stress into anxiety a lot of times.
yeah.
How do you balance that? Like, how do you know I'm lined up with where I need to be? I'm really motivated. I'm really pushing, but I'm okay. Versus I'm spinning and I'm working too much and I'm getting sloppy.
So we talk about anxiety first, right? So I definitely know the difference between my anxiety and stress, and when they're often related. But I do have like I was a kid that there's always, I feel like, the entrepreneur story of like, oh, I didn't do well in school and then I came out. No, I was average. I worked really, really hard and I was average always. And I always put the most effort in because I just felt like I had to take that extra course to get into college or do this or whatever. And for me, I do have like a lot of anxiety just never doing enough, right? And running out of time and everything else. But the difference what I know when about stress is if I'm stressing and not making progress, that's anxiety. If I'm stressing and making progress, that's just banging out work, being stressed, right? That comes with doing more. And a lot of guys, we see it where at like the office, right? If we're really, really at our most stressful point, it's usually when we're not making progress at the same time, like numbers aren't good, we're working hard, we don't feel like we're getting anywhere. We feel stuck, right? Versus like we feel like we're making progress. It's like really, really tight knit bonding and community when you're stressed together as a team and working towards the same goal and accomplishing it. Like for me, that's like forever bonding. Like that's the difference between the two. Because I mean, I prefer or compare a lot of things to fitness, right? Like the more stress you have in your body, the stronger your muscles grow. So I think it's the same thing. You know, if you want to grow, like you need discomfort.
Yeah, discomfort, not pulling a muscle.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
But there's still a max. You know, you can push it.
Yeah.
But you know, I just think it matters what you're working towards and who you're doing it with. Then do you feel like you're making progress?
Yeah, I like the progress analogy because I think that a decent way to describe anxiety is when fear and stress have a dysfunctional child.
Mm.
And you know the difference between fear and anxiety if I'm afraid of something and I come up with a plan that makes it not hit as hard or to avoid it, and that plan makes me feel better.
Mm.
That's fear because I've addressed my fear.
Mm.
Right? I've got progress. If I do that and I just go to the next thing, or no matter what kind of plan I come up with, this fear isn't going away, we're now in anxious territory.
Mm.
And I think that lines up really well with the stressed idea. You're stressed when you feel like you're getting traction. Like, there's a problem, I got stuff to do, let's go. And I'm working on it. And it might not be moving fast all the time, but I feel it moving.
Mm.
I feel like I'm chipping away at this problem versus I'm just grinding into a wall that isn't moving.
Yeah. And most of my thing, I get the second recurring pattern when that happens, is where I feel like I'm not working hard enough at that point. So I'll work harder. I'll do all-nighters, right? Instead of eliminating stuff, working smarter, and then I'll get burnt out, right, from that. And I think like we're doing again with our company right now, it's taking a step back, right, and rebuilding, right. That all the cliches in life typically are true. Like one step backwards, take 2 steps forward, right. So that's kind of something that I have to learn, but you need to be able to catch yourself and be aware of it because it is really easy to get caught in that kind of rat race, mindset, and you get stuck.
And no one nails the balance consistently, right? And I think that's where a lot of younger guys I work with, they're always freaked out about how they're freaked out instead of just recognizing that everybody's struggling somewhere.
Yeah.
I think a lot about trying to pick up this podcast, right? This is like I'm on my 10th episode. And so I spent like 2 months reading everything, grinding on like video editing, spending 30 hours on a given day on trying to get something right until I finally hit that point where like, okay, I'm exhausted. This is starting to go poorly. I now know enough to know what I need to hire out. I now know enough to know like how to get the right kind of help in. And I don't think you get there without overdoing it a little bit. The trick is to catch it before you overdo it so much that you're just straight burnt out, that you just have to walk away and put down whatever it is. I think that's the trick with it.
I'm starting a second company right now in crypto, so unrelated to blue collar, right? But the lessons I've learned, especially with one of my business partners who is more the crypto expert, but hasn't built a company before. I'm just like, dude, too much paralysis by analysis. Like we just got to make the call, get it moving. We'll learn faster by what doesn't work. Like the first step's the hardest, right? Like that is always what it comes down to, because you just learn and you're afraid to put yourself out there. You're afraid to be cringy. You're afraid of what people will say and judge and failure, right? Because it's normal. Your body, like mind, you don't want to fail, right? Because back in the day, I go that hard wiring, like you failed, you died, right? Like, so it's a big difference, but yeah, that's where the first world, I think, problems really come into play now. So,
Well, I think that's Bezos's rule that he came up with. When I heard it, it's one of those things where you hear it, it really sticks well.
yeah.
Like, say what you want about Bezos, he's got a lot of problems, but this was choice.
Mhm.
And the idea of a one-way door and a two-way door, right? If it's a one-way, like if we do this and we step through, you need to know 95% of what's on the other side of that choice. But if it's a two-way door, we can go try something. You need 30%. You're going to learn so much more just trying it on the other side of the door than you will like grinding on the research.
And then I heard another reframing and same thing Bezos quote that it's like 95 decisions in the world are reversible, so make them quickly, and the other five, yeah, take your time on them. But most make it, you can change your mind later.
It was like how we have to quantify it to make it real, right?
Yeah. But yeah, and then like I'm a big fan of like the Pareto principle, which is 80-20, but it really isn't. It's just majority results come from a few things.
And you never know which they are until you've tried them all. Well, I think for kind of the career stuff, it's important. You know, we've got a lot of guys that are trying to figure out what career to go into and how to explore it. If you were talking to a guy looking to start in the trades somewhere and build a life there, what are kind of 3 pieces of advice you would give him out of the gate?
So I think it kind of goes back to what we just talked about, is go work at a bunch of companies and see what you like, right? Early on, younger stuff, like.
So don't get locked in right away.
No,
go try some different job sites, look around at what people are doing.
Yeah.
See what works out there.
Yeah, like first, because again, it goes into you don't know what you don't know yet. You don't know what you don't like. You might think, oh, I want to be an electrician. Why? What do you know about the day of an electrician that makes you want to be an electrician? Right? What do you know about a plumber? Right? So it's like do some research, ask around, ask for references, right? And that ask to shadow for free, because you can do that. People will be like, if someone came off the street and be like, hey, especially me, and like I think there's certain entrepreneurial people that like I'm a sucker for that. Like if you came on the street and say, hey, I don't know what I want to do with my career, and I don't know what trade I'm gonna do, would I be able to shadow you guys for a day or work for you a day and like whatever? And I think commitment and like we need a body. I would love to be able to help give someone direction.
Well, I think that's something we forget with all the modern ways of getting jobs is, and it might have changed by now, but back when I was doing my training, 90% of jobs still came through social connection. You know, you can be on all the sites you want, but if you know somebody in the company that's willing to vouch for you, it's going to go better. And so getting out there and meeting and doing some shadowing, being audacious enough to ask around. The big thing I recommend for guys doing any career is if they're looking to doing a real big switch, is get on LinkedIn, get wherever people that do that job are, and then get on the phone and talk to people who do it until you've talked to 3 people who love their job and 3 people who hate your job. Because none of the people that are in the middle are going to talk to you. They don't care enough to have a conversation about it. Yeah. But you need to hear both ends, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the both end thing is really important to not have bias, right? Like you said, because there are always people on both ends. And it's a natural churn of businesses, right? Like some are going to be perfect. And again, you should be people on the far end of like you don't like it as well, because yes, that means you're not in the right place sometimes, right? And whether that's a toxic environment or just not the career for you.
So that first point is get out and look at things, try different things. Two is don't be afraid to ask to see behind the
Mm-hmm.
curtain. That Dwayne France is a colleague of mine, and he talks a lot about the audaciousness of hope. Let them tell was always kind of his deal.
Yeah.
What's a third thing they might be able to do?
I think the third thing is honestly probably YouTube. Just like YouTube is such an incredible resource,
Yeah.
and there's so much content on there now. And just like a day in the life of an electrician, I guarantee
Yeah.
a ton of videos will come up, right? Day in the life,
Dozens. Yeah.
and I think that's a great way of doing it. Obviously, again, they're giving me some bias there, but I'm sure a lot of videos will be like, "This is real life. Like this is the hard work we go through in this," and. But yeah, and then like YouTube goes, it's self education, books as well, like YouTube and books, Audible, whatever you like. Yeah, do a little research.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned Audible. One of the things that comes up a lot is the distinction between like audiobooks and books. Doesn't matter how you get the knowledge, you still read the book. Don't let anybody shame you if you're a guy that needs to listen to it. Grad school kind of broke me. Most of the books I take in these days, I'm listening to. I'm not reading anymore. And I got distinguished graduate in my program. It's not that I can't.
Yeah,
Right?
I get really mad at my guys, selfishly, because like if I was on the if I when I was in college and I did this job and I knew how to listen to Audible books, I would have learned so much because that's all I would have did while I'm doing physical.
Yeah, you just had it on the
I've
road.
just
Yeah.
put them in and you learn. I'm like, you guys have so much time to learn. You can literally
Right.
get paid to learn. You can just pop in the headphones and then find a book you like.
So, so I think if we were gonna kind of summarize all three, it boils down to curiosity. Don't be that guy off of Indeed that takes the first job
Mhm.
and just stays at that job. Look around. You're gonna find happiness by knowing what's out there, even if the first job was the one, because then you're not worried about it. You know what's there.
Yeah, and I think there's two things that kind of cause that. One is like fear, like oh, I need money and need it now.
Wait.
And the other thing is like the paralysis by analysis of things. Like, well, I don't know where to start, so yeah, I'm just gonna
Mm,
take the first job and take that decision out of my hands, like instead of doing
yeah.
research.
What's that balance of action and knowledge, right? Like Mark Manson says that learning is the smart guy's procrastination,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, that's my therapist has given me shit for that, where he's just like, like you already know everything to do, you're just not doing it. Like you don't need
Yeah.
more knowledge. Stop. Like
Yeah.
again, and certain topics, yeah, I do think I need more knowledge. But for where my problems are right now as a company, yeah, I don't need more knowledge.
Yeah. If you don't have a step to take after spending a few hours researching something, you've either not researched the right thing, but more often than not, you're afraid of something else. It's not what you don't know. Well, man, I want to respect your time and make sure I get you out of here in time to get to your lady.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's get into you a little bit directly.
Mm-hmm.
The three questions that I ask everybody that come on, right? The first one is, what's a truth about masculinity you learned before you were 12 that remains true today?
I think I used to cry about everything. Like I was a very happy kid, but like when things would go wrong and I'd be embarrassed, I would cry like all the time, like a lot, a lot, a lot. And it was right around 12, 13 where I started really getting out of it. But I learned that lesson as like it's okay, like to kind of not be okay, right? In that, and which is like kind of the opposite of normal masculine now. But what I mean by that is that now is like I learned that like that's part of life. Like it's not going to be fair, right? And it made me very, I want to say callous in different ways, where I'm good at solving like those problems now,
Okay.
and used to it, and like I feel like I actually only cry ever, like it doesn't like deaths in the family, anything like it's movies like during happy scenes, a movie or like whatever, like that's when I'll like somehow it'll come out of me, like I'm like oh I have emotions again. But other than that, like tough times, man, like I can't imagine that I'd be crying before it. And I think it's just because all those experiences, before that, like life isn't fair and it's going to be hard and you can work your way through it kind of thing.
So, kind of a truth for you is men have big emotions, but you have to manage them to get it done.
Yeah, like it's not going to change anything. Like me crying never made it better, right? And my dad was very very tough for me on that, because it was normally during sports heavily I would cry as well.
Yeah.
And it does nothing but feel like I was just feeling sorry for myself. And again, those feelings still exist, but now I channel it to more of like, okay, like why do I feel that way? What do I need to improve? Right?
Mhm.
What are the action steps I need to take because of that? Yeah, I think
Yeah, the caveat I would put on that for folks is, find a place and people where you can cry for a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. Well,
You got to get it out. And like you with those movies, right? Like, all right, I know, like I can't get it out the other ways, but I can get it out here a little bit,
yeah,
you know?
no, and the caveat I want to tell everyone here, that's not, it's not that it's not okay to feel that way, right? Because I have a lot of conversations where we're vulnerable and we're open, like my friends, right? And we talk about stuff. And I just talked to one of my friends about like he's going through some depression and everything else, and he's, we're in our 30s now, relationship stuff, right? So the issue is, this is not to be non-emotional, right? It's not okay. I'm saying I learned that my emotions, because I was crying over.
Well, I imagine crying like that as a kid is isolating, right? Because people are pulling away from that kind of volatility
Correct.
as opposed to connecting with a kid that's like crying a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was crying over things that like once I couldn't jump over a fence and my friends were watching me. That was with my dad and I was embarrassed. Like I cried heavily. Like I was immobilized. And something that was sticks to me. And I'm saying it's okay to be upset, but just also because someone you're upset doesn't mean it's like validated, right? Like you need to like be able to work through that. And I'm just using that as a couple of examples, but it was often. Now, I think more than anything else, like I'm very in tune with emotions, but also talking about them, especially with employees. Like I go straight to the conversation. I'm really good at reading people, especially when the emotions are involved, and having those
Yeah.
tough conversations early on. I think emotions serve a really strong purpose. Like we have them for a reason. They're there
Yeah.
to direct us and trigger us.
Well, and they're not going anywhere. You might as well use them.
Right.
The second one
Mhm.
is tell us about a time your pursuit of manhood hurt you.
I think for this one, and still is today kind of thing, it's like, and it's funny because it's like this, I believe in overcorrection, like too often we're trying to overcorrect. And I think for right now, I'm still going through that, where we talk about being that provider, right? And like, when is enough enough? So I have a, pretty successful business. Yeah, we just bought a nice house in New Jersey, and we're looking at planning the wedding and everything else, and I have to remind myself of everything that's going right in life right now, right? And I'm thinking like, well, I have to do more, right? And I have to, be able to I want to be a provider even for my parents. Like my goal is to retire my parents, right? My goal is to be a provider for my employees, help them career and development, and like save everybody. And same thing with my family, right? And I want to have a certain life for them. But it's not a cushy life; it's a secure life. But at the same time, help growing them and everything else, right? And putting them the best chances for success. And we'll see what happens as they get older. But I think for me, I think that constant pursuit. I'm on this call late right now. You said, "Oh, get with your family right after that fiance," right? Like, yeah, there are times where it's like balancing where how far have I gone too far as being this provider trying to save everybody, um, and you know who am I neglecting in the meantime, or am I losing that time, right? I think some things that are a gamble, right? To just like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm only going to work this hard for 2 years, and then I'm going to be able to enjoy the next 40, and 2 years turns into 10. Like,
Yeah, and then the 2 years doesn't pan out.
yeah,
There's no guarantee in business,
yeah,
right?
like who are we working so hard for? Is like for me, and again, it's that provider thing because it isn't to really impress anyone anymore. I think when you're younger, it is, and maybe as you're older for certain things. For me, it's not. It's just am I who I say I am, and what kind of life
You're
do
from.
I provide for my family? This is the like the whole "Cats in the Cradle" song.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's that, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, after coming up on a decade of doing clinical work, I can say with some authority that I've never had a guy whose father wasn't abusive that said I wish dad worked more. It's and that provider man, like we keep I see it with clients, I see it with buddies of mine, it's happened to me. Sounds like you're kind of navigating which end of it you're falling on, but you can always get more, right? You can always push and get more. But figuring out that enough line for now to balance that out is hard. And the amount of guys that let that pursuit of being the provider kind of break the other relationships,
Cool.
it's pretty consistent.
When I think when I look at my own thing, I really do believe it's like a disposition to like gambling and stuff as humans and shit. It's like we always like we just overestimate how often we're going to be right about something, right? And that's when I'm like for me, I'm like, oh, this task will only take this long, right, or that, and I'm not good at I'm getting better, but for the most part, I thought I'd be farther ahead right now. And at the same time, like I did look back, like we had a record-breaking week last week for the company, like most revenue we ever did in 1 week, and it's like when's enough enough, right, kind of thing. And the truth is, in business, you always have to have growth actually, for the most part, because you need to be growing for your employees to have a career path. right? So you're going to get bottlenecked if you don't keep growing the company to some shape or form. So it's a tough, balancing act to do that.
I think that expansive role of what being a provider means as a business owner always gets tricky, right?
Mm,
Like finding the balance of I have a responsibility to take care of my people versus parentifying your role for them
yeah, yeah.
is like it's tricky. It's
I
tricky.
bring it home, and so my fiance's like, I'm not one of your employees. Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's hard.
Don't talk. No, you don't need to do that here. Stop
Yeah.
it.
But
God.
so this is the thing that's really interesting, and I would love to get like a psychology like on it more. Over 50% of our frontline employees don't have a father figure in the home, and it's always astounding me, And then how they come through, and seeing the patterns, the similarities between them, and I do feel obligated sometimes to fill that void. And it's tough things like where is it my place to be? But I've also had really, really positive feedback that like I save the text because it means like a lot to me um, to do that. So again, it's like, oh, am I going too far?
Yeah, it's the line. So what men generally need and what boys desperately need is mentorship.
Mm,
And a father figure fills a lot of that space. But when they're not there, it only takes two or three guys that step in pieces, right? Like that coach, that teacher, that boss that takes an interest in you, shows some care and teaches you something, right? But that's all it needs to be for mentorship,
mm,
right? A father has to love them regardless of what they do.
yeah,
A father has to like make sure that their kids are the priority as much as they can be. As a boss, you got a whole company to take care of. You've got your family to see to first. And never underestimate the power of what that mentorship's doing, even when you're dialing it back to like mentorship instead of parental.
yeah. It's hard to tell the difference between parental and mentorship, and again, everything's gray, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's it shouldn't be hard to know when you're in the gray area. I feel like it should be easy to know when you're outside of that area. You're going too far
Yeah.
one way. And for one kid, this is early on, less than like year one. We went to his house and talked to his mom, and like helped him with his finances and all this other crap that was going on. And we had like a heart to heart with him, and we 100% took that father figure role. Like we knocked and went into his house, too far, and that we ended up getting burnt with that employee and it didn't work out. But
I am entirely
yeah,
unsurprised. But you got to learn on one, man. Like there's always the first one,
yeah. He
right?
was our first employee, so yeah.
And there you go. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it's a hard balance, but just by hearing you talk and listening to a few other episodes that you've done, I think you're probably hitting it better than you think you are, just from the stories you tell.
Yeah, I actually like I do think I'm really good at that. The issue I have is one-on-one conversations and heart-to-hearts because I know how much it means to me, so I'm genuine, and I think being genuine makes it effective, and I've done it a lot now, and I analyze, I read on it. The issue I have is you need systems that make that the culture in the company, and that your managers are doing that, and managers and their direct reports, and everybody's kind of doing it because I can't be everywhere, right? And what I say gets interpreted differently, and everything else, right? So that's for my next career progression, really. I think that's in the companies is I need to be able to expand on that. But
I think that's anything that's not a job and a career has stuff like that where you're mentoring one or two steps down from you. Not like the CEO isn't mentoring the fry cook,
yeah,
right? Like that can happen rarely.
mm,
But for instance, the guy who mentored me in the field, the guy who supervised me, he's now like in his 80s. He hadn't seen a client in 15 years when he was supervising
mm,
me because he didn't do it anymore. His whole job was supervision, management, and education.
yeah,
And I think just feeling those transition points, right? Knowing when it's time to be like, okay, so like I can't be with the frontline guys like I want to. How are the people around them filling the void I'm leaving as I move up?
it's a different type of problem to solve,
Mm-hmm.
right? So and I'm finding that I have to be a different type of leader, manager, person to be more effective in my communication and my
Yeah,
standards and everything to do that. So it's coming along, but it's not.
yeah, that's good, man. Well, for the last one, what's a time where pursuit of your masculinity empowered you?
I would say kind of going into like right now is like it's a very political thing right now to say guys are the breadwinner, right, and women are the homemakers. because I don't believe that. I believe in like in general, every scenario is different. Like I'm very,
I believe in choice, and the choice that you're wanting to make
yeah,
is
it's
traditional.
whatever it is, right? Like
Yeah.
it's up to you if you want to do whatever you want to do, kind of thing. And for me, in this role, I believe actually more and more that I would love to see it where my fiance and everyone else, like, she can have any choice she wants, right, to do
Mm-hmm.
whatever pursue, right, and that's career, that's home, whatever. And as you have a family, I know that will change things. So I think for right now, I do feel very empowered in my position to be a provider. Like, again, we
So,
have this conversation provider thing, and I think for me, I'm very thankful that I'm in a position where I have a lot of not only through control but influence over like my career path right now, and I know if I can figure some stuff out, that's a privilege to have to be in the position I am now. Yeah, I worked really hard to be where I am now, but I am where I am now, right? So it's a
man,
privilege, but yeah, I think that's where I feel really good about looking at it and say, okay, I built this so far, built it with the team. Yeah, I didn't do it alone, but now I am in a position where I can really kind of control my own destiny. And I only got there by putting myself out there, working really, really hard, taking risks, and embracing again that whole like kind of provider.
you want to be able to be the provider. I always like when people acknowledge the double edge
Mm,
of the masculine traits and roles. And like you said, everybody needs to make their choice. Nobody's making a wrong choice for the individual, right? There's nothing wrong with a guy being a homemaker.
yeah,
In fact, it's kind of awesome when you see it. It's my favorite thing is to see a dad with a pile of kids in the grocery
bought
store.
a house
Makes me smile every
and I'm
time.
like, I love being home. Like building systems within the home. I treat it like a business.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
I like the acknowledgement of that because otherwise you can lose. Like if you don't notice where it's hurting you, it's not going to push you as well as you want it
mm,
to. Right. So I really appreciate you kind of threading that line between those two. The social dynamics of things now are a lot more about social signaling than helping people make choices. Right. Like the dream of feminism is that people get to choose. That's it. Like that, like at its core, that's what feminism is like everybody's empowered to make a choice for the life that they want. And I think as we kind of dial in that dream, as it were, people had to overcorrect right now, like, and it screwed everybody, right? A guy can only be a provider, but like women have to do everything, which means being a provider too. So where's the room for the guy in the family, right? Or before, when we pushed guys so hard to the provider role, we drowned the father role. It's just about picking and like partnering up with someone that wants similar things that you two can negotiate with.
yeah,
That's it.
and
Doesn't have to be complicated.
yeah, and I think that's the whole partnering up thing is like, I think your values will probably shift a little bit when you have kids, right? Um,
Mm-hmm. Oh, they should. God, I hope
yeah,
so.
yeah, right. So, and at that point, again, I say that because I don't have kids yet, but like, yeah, you're gonna want to be shifting responsibilities and work as a team, right? To provide the what makes the most sense, provide the best life and the fair life, and spend time together, right? And between. So, whatever that looks like, and yeah, my fiance right now is actually in the process of starting um, her own company as well, and we don't know what it will look like when we both are, because once you're in the entrepreneurial thing, especially early days, like it like sets a ton of your time. And we might have to switch those
Yeah.
roles where I have to be, because she was extremely supportive with me when I started the company, right?
Yeah, so it might be her
For
turn.
no income, right? And
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I hope I can teach her some of the lessons that I had to go through. But yeah, she might, I might have to be leaving work early to take care of the kid to help her pursue her dream, right? Like, who knows what that dynamic looks like?
Yeah.
Again, it's just to be there for each other, right?
I do my best not to have too much of an agenda because as a therapist, right, that's where we can mess up our clinical work is if we have an agenda in your life. But where it's just been so consistently seen on people's happiness is almost every guy I work with, when you have kids, you got to take a work stall. Like not, you don't, you're going to keep working, right? Like most guys are not going to be the stay-at-home dad, but you can't be in a career push because you're going to miss things that you don't get back.
Yeah. Well,
Like you're going to miss the first steps. You're going to not be able to coach your kid's team. You're going to, all the things that you dreamed of about being a dad.
yeah.
You can't do in the first 10 years of the kid being there if you want to do those
Well,
things.
and that circles back to like, remember talking about my anxiety? Like, I do have
Mm-hmm.
anxiety about, because I'm 33 now, like, okay, I need to get all this infrastructure down in my business so I can buy time in the future with my kids, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like, when is enough enough? Because I don't I don't have to work as much much as I used to.
No, and you probably don't need as much as you think you do.
Right.
Okay, like that's just it. That what I always like with people that are anxious about money, I swear to God, half of them come in, and when I have them go do their books and look at their numbers and look at their goals, if they're over 35, they're there.
Mhm.
They're right where they want to be. They just they haven't looked, and the answer has always been more.
Yeah.
So the best thing clinically that you can do around money is pick a number and then like look for progress points in that number and let's see how it changes how you feel. But if you don't have a metric, you're just hosed. It's just always more.
Yeah. And I'm just clear understanding, like, I had a goal to buy a Bronco when I hit a certain number in a certain task and did, and it's like, I went to return it. And I appreciate it as soon as I drove off the lot because it just didn't increase that happiness as much as I thought it would.
Yeah.
And again, I look back and I'm grateful, appreciate I got it. But I'm like, I'd rather put that money towards the wedding or something else, right? So
Yeah. Priorities shift, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on and the work you've been doing. I'm really happy to have this conversation. It's kind of hard to find guys that can navigate that thread between the two worlds.
Mhm.
And I think it means a lot. It's particularly in like the political climate and how we're also divided. And we divide on a lot of those like economic lines, right? Where white collar folks don't respect blue collar folks and vice versa. I'm hoping that this conversation with you and the other conversations you're having are helping guys like cross those a bit better and start to build those things out.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And again, I appreciate the time on there because I've gained new perspective on, how you see the world and how you think about things. And I would agree on everything. And again, even if you don't agree, I think the point of this is have conversation, right? Be open to having conversations. Too many people are, talk about political climate. So too many people are just not open to hearing the other side. And again, we didn't really go too much on the other side, right, of anything. But I hope people, I think there's, as you talk about, there's people that are lost, confused, right? And
Well, and I think it's on purpose, man. Like I don't think people are failing. I think our systems are.
Yeah.
Right. It's just so easy to surround yourself with people that think like you.
You don't even
That it's hard to remember. I think, what was it, in the 80s or 90s, you could sit down with somebody from anywhere in America and you two were likely to agree on 70% of the issues facing the country in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now we don't even get to find out that number because we find out so guns are my thing. Where are you on guns?
Yeah.
Oh, abortion's my thing. Where are you on abortion?
Yeah.
And then none of the rest of it happens.
Yeah. And again, I still think we
Anyway,
actually agree on most things. It's just that I learned this from a psychologist. His name was Eric Flanholtz, and he mentored me a couple of years ago. And he even said the biggest issue in conversations is the defensive wall. Once the defensive wall gets triggered, there is no more listening, right? And literally the part of the brain, I forget the brainstem that shares logic and emotions, like they share the same neural pathway, whatever it is. So once you get emotional, logic goes out the window. So you got to stop that trigger from going up if you want to have an effective conversation.
Yeah, I would reframe that from emotional to defensive, right? Like once you feel like you have to protect yourself, you're not supposed to be in a space to be curious about somebody else.
Yeah.
And you can't be curious about somebody else without being secure in your defenses.
Right. And that's like Maslow's hierarchy needs kind of thing too as well.
Yeah. Well, I just that curiosity is emotional, right? Like your interest in people, the reason why your companies have done so well, the reason why your employees like you like they do, the reason why you're able to come on here and connect with thousands of people that you've never met is because you're emotional about the curiosity of people. Mm. And that wouldn't happen if you didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a lot of work, man. I've not done your gig, but man, it sounds like you do a lot of work.
Yeah. As you, man. And I think, I don't know, man. I think everything's a lot of work, right? Yeah. Being alive is a lot of work.
As long as it's worth doing, right?
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the time. Thanks so much for coming and sharing these things.
Appreciate it.
And that's our conversation with Jake Still. I really enjoyed the conversation and opening up the dialogue around what blue and white collar guys can learn from each other, what they do well, and how those transitions might go bouncing between the two of them. For the fact check for this episode, we really didn't get anything wrong. I put up some data along the way in the video, and I'll have it in the show notes to make sure that we're backing up our claims that we made. But overall, everything went really smoothly, and there was nothing that even really needs nuance correction. So I'm really happy with that. I asked you at the beginning to think of a skill listening to this that you might want to pick up. Whatever skill you chose, who's someone in your life that's going to help you learn it? If you can, take a moment and put it in the comments or message me what the skill is and who's going to help you learn it. Remember, these things are hard to take on. So doing them all by yourself and doing it with just a book or a podcast, sure, we can do it that way. But if you can find someone to connect with in your life to do it, it's going to go so much better. And I really hope you leverage this idea to connect out in your world. Thanks so much for listening to the episode. Join us next week on episode 14, where we talk about how to be better neighbors to Black men in this country. I'll see you there.